Welcome to the 8 Minute Podcast, where 8 minutes is all it takes to transform your day. So, if you're ready, let's dive in and make every minute count. This is the first ever episode of the 8 Minute Podcast. It's super exciting, it's a bit emotional, and honestly, a little scary. So, I wanted to make an introductory episode before uploading future episodes to explain the concept, the story behind it, and what you can expect moving forward. So, here we go. The idea for the 8 Minute Podcast came from a video I saw featuring leadership expert Simon Sinek. And in the video, he talks about a study conducted during COVID in 2020, showing that empathy-focused phone calls can reduce feelings of loneliness, depression, and anxiety. And so, essentially, when someone is struggling, just 8 minutes of support from a friend or loved one can make a big difference. Simon Sinek and his friends use this code where they text each other, "Do you have 8 minutes?" whenever they need support. Isn't that so cool? Shouldn't we all be doing that? Anyway, before I go any further, I wanted to share 3 things that can happen in 8 minutes. The first one being that your heart will beat between 500 and 1,000 times. You can walk between 2,600 and 4,500 steps in 8 minutes, depending on your walking speed, of course. And finally, something I do not recommend trying, but during the first ever World Hard-Boiled Egg Eating Championship, Joey Chestnut set a record by eating 141 eggs in just 8 minutes. And of course, in 8 minutes, you can listen to an episode of this podcast. Okay, so back to it. How did this idea take shape? One day I was in the shower and the idea struck me. Why not turn this concept into a podcast? Why not have a platform where in just 8 minutes we could share life lessons, reflections, and insights to help others feel more grounded and more at peace? I personally love doing that with my friends, and they are the ones who encouraged me to share my thoughts with a wider audience. So, to anyone who is listening, hi, my name is Zoe. I'm just a fellow human being living on this big blue planet, trying to navigate life with intention and purpose. I said trying. um, I wanted to create this podcast because I love helping people out whenever I can. I love cheering people up through words, whether written or spoken. So the idea behind this podcast is pretty simple and straightforward. My goal is to create a space in which we can all pause and reflect for just a couple of minutes. Life is so fast-paced, and sometimes all we need is a moment of clarity, connection, to shift our mindset. That's why 8 minutes felt like the perfect duration. It's long enough to dive into meaningful ideas, but short enough to fit into even the busiest of schedules. Whether you're starting your day or taking a short break, this podcast is meant to be a little boost of positivity, motivation, and ultimately mindfulness. Through this podcast, I hope my voice and words bring you comfort, but also inspiration and momentum to embrace your truest, most authentic selves. I aspire to create a community in which we can all learn, grow, and support each other through life and all its movements, one episode at a time. And so, if at any point you feel like you could use a moment to recalibrate, I hope these 8 minutes provide that for you. I must admit, the idea of the 8-minute podcast was a bit of a aha moment for me where I thought to myself, okay, this could actually be something good. This could actually be turned into something meaningful. So this project has been a long time coming. It took almost a year of envisioning and planning, but we are finally here. Actually, spoiler alert, but the first episode about the art of starting is available now. It's the first ever real episode of this podcast. And after that, a new 8-minute episode will go live every Monday to kickstart your week. Episodes will be available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. You can also follow the podcast on Instagram. All the links are in the episode's description. So feel free to interact with this content, share it with your loved ones if you think that they will enjoy this type of podcast. And a quick disclaimer, this podcast is not a substitute for professional help, so if you or someone you know is struggling, please seek guidance and advice from a qualified professional. So thank you so much for tuning in and for listening to this first ever episode of the 8-Minute Podcast. It really means a lot. And remember that all you need is 8 minutes. Cheers.